And welcome to the BBC News at 6. Scotland Yard has announced it's to conduct a criminal investigation into the alleged misuse of expenses by MPs and peers. In the last few minutes, the BBC has learnt that among those under scrutiny are the former Minister Elliot Morley and Labour MP David Chater. Both allegedly claimed expenses for mortgages they'd already paid off. The Labour peer Baroness Udin is also believed to be under investigation. It's alleged she claimed allowances for a flat she wasn't living in. Well, let's talk to our Home Affairs correspondent, June Kelly. June, this is all just breaking as we come on air. What more can you tell us?
Well, I think the first thing to say, Fiona, is that Scotland Yard said a couple of weeks ago that they'd ruled out a massive investigation following the expenses controversy, but they did say they were continuing to look at a small number of politicians. And tonight we understand from them that they are investigating MPs and peers. I should stress they are not giving us any names of those under investigation. We understand that they are Elliot Morley, David Chater and Baroness Udin, all from the Labour Party. As you say, Baroness Udin, she has been accused of claiming £100,000 for a flat which was unoccupied. In the MP's cases, it involves payments being reimbursed for mortgage payments when the mortgage had been paid off. But it is at the very early stage now, this investigation, and the Yard are also saying that there are other cases potentially that they might be looking at. There was a joint panel set up to look at this, a panel of involving officers from the Yard and the Crown Prosecution Service, and they have been looking at these cases over the recent weeks, and obviously this massive development tonight, but potentially there could be more developments in the future.
And it's not the first time, June, is it, that Scotland Yard has conducted a politically sensitive investigation at Westminster, but it's still a pretty unusual move.
It's very unusual, and of course it's reminiscent of the Cash for Honours inquiry, which was very difficult for the Met, very sensitive, went on for a long time, cost a lot of money, and in the end there were no prosecutions. We are at the very early stage of this, so only time will tell whether we get any prosecutions. It is being carried out by the Met's Specialist Crime Directorate, and they were the people who carried out the Cash for Honours inquiry.
OK, June, thanks very much for that update. Well, let's talk to our political correspondent Ian Watson, who's at Westminster. Ian, any response from anyone at Westminster there?
Yes, there is. I think this news will convulse Westminster. As June Kelly was saying, the expectation was that probably there wouldn't be investigations or prosecutions in most cases. They always left open the possibility of going after a small number of MPs, but the fact that the investigation is now being launched, I think, has actually shocked some of the MPs and the political parties here. The Labour Party, in the last few minutes, have issued a statement. They say that while it would be inappropriate to comment on an ongoing police investigation, they expect all Labour Party representatives and members to cooperate fully with the police. Now, we've tried to contact some of the people who've got into trouble with their expenses. I called Elliot Morley's home address. His home phone was slammed down on me. I've tried to contact David Chater. We were told he's at constituency surgery this evening, going around about his own constituency business. And we've also left a message for Baroness Udin. Now, in those cases, we must stress that each of those people have said, when the allegations were presented in the press, that they have done nothing wrong, that they've made inadvertent errors or unforgivable mistakes. And in Elliot Morley's case, he's paid money back for a mortgage which didn't exist. In David Chater's case, he's also begun making some repayments as well. We've also had some reaction from Peter Mandelson in the past few minutes, who said that if there are any allegations of fraud, then they need to be investigated. But what really needs to be done is that the whole system has got to be cleaned up. And I think what will be annoying a lot of the leading politicians here at Westminster this evening will be that just as they thought the expenses story was going away, just as they tried to get on the front foot and talk about more transparency in future, then right slap bang in the middle of all that, we're now told there'll be potentially criminal investigations into some MPs' behaviour, which can't do very much to restore trust in the political process.
And Ian, we know that these are three names believed to be under investigation. As June was saying, there may be more names. So could this spell the end of yet more MPs' careers?
Well, I think the expenses saga has already spelt the end of some MPs' careers. We talked about David Chater, for example. He said he's standing down at the next election. Elliot Morley is standing down at the next election. The Labour Party has debarred 5 MPs so far from standing for election next time, simply because of the expenses claims, even before there was any news of the possibility of a police investigation. On the Conservative side, next week the Conservative Scrutiny Panel will tell us what they've been up to when they've been assessing claims made by Conservative MPs and whether any Conservative MPs will also be standing down, in addition to those who have already said they're leaving at the next election. So clearly, already that process is in place. The political parties would say that they've taken tough action themselves without necessarily waiting for the police to intervene. But it is difficult to know exactly how this will play with the public. As I said, I don't think this will do a great deal for trust in the political process. But equally, if voters who are very angry with MPs' behaviour believe at least this has been taken seriously and has been properly investigated, then perhaps actually this will to some extent nip some of that continuing anger in the bud, and may do so before the next general election.
Okay, Ian Watson at Westminster, thanks very much. Iran's supreme leader has singled out Britain as his country's